welcome to Visions. I'm Mirella Rich. Today our guest is Margarita Windisch, who is the State Convener for the Socialist Alliance in Victoria. Welcome to the program, Margarita.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and yourself?
Sure. I left Austria when I was about 20, not quite 21, and I felt I needed to sort of find myself a little bit and get away from things that didn't quite work out for me. So I moved away as far as possible from Austria, which was Australia. Wow. And I started to basically do a bunch of different jobs, and I really quite enjoyed the experience. It was hard because I didn't know a single person, I had no money, but it was also a real character test. I guess it really made me find myself, knowing who I am, working out what I'm able to do, what my limitations are. And it was a very, very important experience for me. I would say it was one of the most fascinating, wonderful decisions I made.
And had you had any experience behind you, like any work experience or studies?
I did study a couple of years in Vienna, psychology, but I wasn't interested. I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So doing that runner was a good thing to do.
And what sort of jobs did you start off with in the beginning?
Look, I worked.
Whatever you could get.
I worked in King's Cross, you know, like in an Austrian restaurant, 24-hour restaurant. Now that was an experience.
24 hours. Wow.
It was like you had all sorts of ordinary tourists coming in during the day, and from midnight on, the clientele completely changed. And I worked in a bakery, I worked in a bunch of different restaurants, Italian restaurants in Paddington and Darlinghurst. And then I ran away from Sydney and moved to Melbourne. And I've been put ever since. I mean, I've travelled around a bit.
And can you tell us about your role as State Convener of the Socialist Alliance? What does that involve?
It basically involves trying to get people together. I sort of help coordinate a group of people that sort of try and make some initiatives, try and take some decisions about what the Socialist Alliance should be doing in Victoria. I get in touch with the membership, I have a chat with different people who are interested to get involved, and I also help organise conferences that we've run. I help organise, you know, public meetings, so a whole bunch of different things.
And what makes you so passionate about being a social activist?
Well, I guess I grew up with a very strong belief that the current system we've got is basically making the rich richer and the poor poorer. I come from a working class background in Austria. My parents were, you know, quite poor for Austrian conditions. But I also grew up with a very strong sense of social justice and the fact that you should always look after the people who are weaker than you. And together we can achieve things and we can be strong. And I hated the fact that as a girl I just couldn't do the same things as boys. Not because I wasn't capable, but because I wasn't allowed to. It just made no sense. Why could my brother go out till 3 o'clock in the morning, but I couldn't? You know, so there were so many different restrictions in a way that really, really annoyed me. And I also found it very hard to see inequality in the world. Like, why was it possible that some people, you know, have massive mansions and then you see African children starving? It just made no sense to me. And I guess it really sort of instilled a sense of, you know, like I wanted to change things. I didn't quite know how to. I really didn't know what I can do to change things for the better until I got involved in politics, and that gave me an outlet. And it's like,
And can you give us some examples of things that you've actually worked on in politics so people can know exactly what sort of area you work in? Yeah,
sure. I mean, one of the first things I actually got involved in Australia, which was in the early 90s, was actually for International Women's Day. I came across some people socially, became friends with them, and they were part of organising a rally for International Women's Day. And I just thought this is a great thing to do, you know, where we can talk about, you know, women's rights and all of that, and also be part of really organising something. And it was a great experience working in a broad collective, women with different ideas, and then pulling off, you know, a protest of 3,000 people. Like, I was like ecstatic, really, you know. So that was one of the early things that sort of really got me excited.
And what were the rights that the women wanted in at that time?
Well, they were basically, I think, very similar to what it's still today. It's like an end to war, an end to racism, for women's reproductive rights. It should be women who should decide if they want to have kids or not. Women should have the right to have abortion. It shouldn't be somebody else telling us what to do with our bodies. We want equality in terms of wages, end to sexual violence. So I think in that sense the themes of what women are sort of fighting for are still pretty much the same.
Okay. And tell us about some other projects you've worked on and come with some good solutions from. Come up with some good solutions.
The Socialist Alliance has sort of been around since 2001 and really has played a very active role in a bunch of different movements. I think one of the very positive things we did is our members in the different trade unions have helped to make sure there's a fight back against Howard's work choices. So they put up motions at their workplaces and stuff to make sure that there's big mass meetings where the unions then decide to maybe take some action against work choices, like help make sure there's a big protest, like a Victorian-wide stop work, where people come out and actually take a stand against work choices. We have been very strongly involved and been really the backbone in Victoria for the anti-war movement.
Beautiful.
When you have the vast majority of Australians who've never agreed with going into Iraq, still don't agree, more and more people oppose the war in Afghanistan. So we thought we have an important role to play to harness that sentiment and give it public expression.
Yeah, heaps of public expression.
To say, Howard, you're not speaking in our name. We disagree. We've never been with you in this. We don't support the slaughter there. And we care for our troops. We want them home. That's where we want our troops, and not in the killing fields in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're just some of the projects we did. There's heaps more, like we try to respond wherever we can. We strongly supported the Burmese when they came out in Australia against the repression that's happening in their country. We work together with different Latin American communities, with the Tamil community. We've been active to take a stand against the erosion of civil liberties and against the terror laws. And I'm really, really proud of the work we've done together with Indigenous activists to raise the issue of the discrimination against Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islander people in Australia.
Beautiful.
So I think that's one of the things I'm very proud of, our great alliance we've created with our local and national Indigenous activists to say, nah, you can't treat Indigenous people like this. You cannot send the army into the Northern Territory. We will take a stand against black deaths in custody, and we think police who kill should be locked up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. We're about to go to a break now. You're watching Visions. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly.